Hello, I'm Alexandra J. Johnson with the Entheos Academy for Optimal Living. Today I am chatting with Marc David about his course, The Secrets of Mind-Body Nutrition. Marc is a nutritional psychologist and the founder and director of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. He is also the author of The Slow Down Diet and Nourishing Wisdom. If you enjoy this interview, you can sign up below and get your mind-body nutrition on. Hello, Marc. It's so great to be chatting with you today.
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
Very, very thrilled about your course, and I love your books that are recommended for this course, The Slow Down Diet and Nourishing Wisdom. Very, very thrilled about that. And let's just jump in with what is mind-body nutrition. Tell us a little bit about that.
What a great question. I have been for probably eons, it seems, trying to figure out what's going on in the field of nutrition. How come there are so many different diets? How come there are so many different experts? How come everybody says something different? And they all have scientific proof. And so I used to get a little frustrated, I have to say. And as I started to dive more into trying to answer that question, why does nutrition seem like the Wild West? What I started to notice is that to my mind, our definition of nutrition was a little small. Meaning the definition of nutrition is sort of what you eat. And nutrition is given by the amount of calories and fat and protein and vitamins and minerals and, biochemicals that are in the food. And that's the value of a food. And I thought, okay, sounds nice, but there's got to be something more. So I just started noticing that, wow, my digestion, my health, my assimilation, my elimination is influenced by kind of how I'm feeling, my level of stress, of relaxation. Did I enjoy the meal? Was I even present to it? So I just started noticing there is a mind-body science component to eating. So then I just started studying and seeing, well, wow, is there any research out there? What can I find? And so that's the term I coined for there is a whole segment of nutrition that's more than just what we eat, but it's who we are as eaters, meaning what you think, what you feel, what you believe, how much pleasure am I getting, level of stress or relaxation, the story you tell yourself, what's your connection to life, to your partner, to the world. All these are influencing metabolism in a pretty powerful way. Right. That's the quick answer to your question.
Well, that's so great, too, and I think you're speaking to so many people, because how many diet books and how many people that are watching this are like, I've tried so many different diets and they don't stick. And it's like, what I'm hearing, what you're saying is, it's not the diet's problem, or it's not our problem, it's the diet. Like, it's not big enough to hold all of who we are.
What a beautiful way to put it, because we're more than a collection of chemicals. You and I are more than just the sum total of the food that we've eaten. So I like to say, yeah, when it comes to good nutrition, food is half the story of what's going to nourish me and what's going to build this body. And again, the other half is who we are as human beings. And we have to start to invent ways of eating and ways of approaching diet, to me, that really speak to that. And I think for so long we've been kind of locked into the paradigm of eat this, don't eat that. And here's the good foods, and here's the bad foods. And, sure, I got foods on my list that I try to avoid. I have foods on my list that I love. So it's not that there's not foods that aren't, really great for you or not so great. But the truth is, a food that's really on my great list, you might eat it and you might get sick. You might be allergic to it. You might not like it. It might not work for your body. And there's this component of body wisdom I find that we tend to sweep under the rug because it sounds a little airy-fairy. It sounds like, wow, it's who's going to do that? All the yoga people and all the dance people, they're going to talk about body wisdom. But guess what? Body wisdom comes into play in everything we do. So for me, when you say, how do we let, this whole concept of diet get bigger so it's big enough to fit us? Part of that is, I think, acknowledging that we've got way more intelligence and kind of IQ points going on in the body, in the biological system. And part of it is just accessing that and paying attention and noticing, because the brain is always giving us feedback about the meal that you and I just ate. How's that feeling? Am I still hungry? Do I need more? What's the nutritional component of that meal? Ooh, maybe we should crave this now or desire that now. That feedback is always going on. If we don't pay attention, because I'm watching TV, I'm multitasking, I'm on a computer, I'm doing stuff, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, we miss the body's intelligence.
Mm-hmm. So great. And just what you were saying, too, just reading your books about the not being on the computer, not reading, not doing these things, like that's a challenge. Like, we're so used to just mindlessly eating, not paying attention, watching a movie. So I love that practice of pleasure. Can you talk a little bit about pleasure and enjoyment and why that's so important for our health, for weight loss, for all of it?
Oh, another great question. If you could take all the research that's done on pleasure and pain, pound for pound, there would be 1,000 pounds of research on pain and maybe 1/10 of a pound on pleasure. In other words, we know a heck of a lot about pain. Mm-hmm. We've researched it. We put time, energy, and money into understanding pain mechanisms in the human body. We haven't really gone into pleasure very much. We're kind of novices as a scientific community, but we do know this. The most primitive circuitry in the brain has us wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Pleasure is a physiologic requirement. It's not something that's nice or additional. We are constantly seeking pleasure. Where you're seeking pleasure in your relationships, in your conversations, in your work, in your food, the clothes you put on. Brain is constantly monitoring, is this pleasurable? Is this painful? Mm-hmm. If it's painful, we avoid it. If it's pleasurable, we kind of go for more of it. Well, when we don't get the pleasure we seek from food, because you are seeking pleasure from food, when we don't get that because I'm on this awful diet, I'm eating in a way that really pulls away from who I am and trying to stick to some impossible way to eat, we're not getting pleasure. Guess what? Appetite goes up. Hunger goes up. And in a strange twist of fate, as it turns out, pleasure catalyzes metabolism. Pleasure catalyzes calorie burning capacity. Pleasure catalyzes a relaxation response, which funnels into digestion. So as soon as you and I are in a relaxation response, we're digesting more fully. We're calorie burning more fully. We're assimilating more fully. You're really anxious and somebody gives you a shoulder rub. They've just gotten you into a relaxation response because, the pleasure feels good. That changes your whole physiology. So it's just sort of time to bring vitamin P, pleasure, back to the table. So, in the course that I'm doing, we talk more about the details in terms of more about the science, more about some of the research, more about really the practical applications of, how do I really put that to use? I might throw out some fun case studies because it's really beautiful to watch people incorporate pleasure into their diet. And it's life-changing, and you've probably seen this, especially for the women of the world. They're really taught, you've got to control yourself, ladies. Mm-hmm. You have to push that food away. You have to have willpower. And has that worked for anyone?
That's so awesome. I love that willpower was one of my questions that I was so excited to ask you about. Does willpower play into it? And as a woman and just diet and everything that's been, you got to say no, and it's forceful and restrictive. And
I think willpower has to be one of the most overrated concepts, particularly when it comes to the world of food and eating and dieting and nutrition. And it's especially, I find, a little bit of a dangerous concept, again, for women who are constantly being given masculine diet strategies. Now, okay, men and women, I think we're a little different. Mm-hmm. And when you put a man on an exercise program, a health program, a diet program, a man's mind, generally speaking, is going to grasp things a little bit differently. Men love to get focused and one-pointed and challenge me and let me use my courage and my willpower. The feminine part of us doesn't so much enjoy that, doesn't want to limit and restrict. Because when you give the feminine mind and the feminine brain the pleasure it seeks, the nourishment it seeks, the beauty it seeks, it relaxes. It's like, okay, done. So a lot of people think I've got to use my willpower to stop eating so then I'm going to lose weight. Well, what happens is you use your willpower, you eat very little amount of food, and what happens is the body wisdom is a little bit stronger than our willpower. It's smarter than our willpower. Body wisdom eventually says, wait a second, you're not getting enough nutrients, you're not getting enough protein, not enough fat, not enough vitamins, not enough minerals, whatever it is, hungry. And then this intense hunger takes over. You might be craving food, you might be binge eating all of a sudden, and then you think, oh my God, I'm a willpower weakling because I used it and it worked for 4 hours today. I skipped lunch and breakfast. And now here I am, I'm binging on all this food. I'm terrible. I'm a failure. But no, you're not. The body was desiring food. The body is designed to eat food. If you use the brain and the mind and willpower to overpower instinct, body wisdom eventually comes through. So most people who say they have a willpower problem don't. They're really not letting themselves relax into the nourishment process in the first place. That's what I've noticed.
That's so awesome. And just hearing you talking about it, I can feel my body relaxing. Can you talk a little bit about the emotions and the mind and how that impacts our eating and our emotional eating, overeating, eating disorders, all of that stuff?
Ooh, big, beautiful question. Let me see if I could thread the needle here with an answer that I think addresses a lot. There's so much conversation out there right now about emotional eating. And part of the inference is that there's something wrong with emotional eating. And like, oh my God, you ate because you're really lonely, or you're really upset, or you really don't have a relationship, or you don't have love, or whatever it is. And what I like to say is that inherently, I don't think emotional eating is bad at all. I think it's wonderful. I realized this the first time I ever went to Italy and watched Italians passionately eat. There are so many people who love food. We're emotional eaters. We tend to love food. You have a bad day at work, you come home, you eat food, you feel better. There's a memory locked into the body since you've been a newborn that says, here's this crying newborn, and you're screaming and you're yelling, and all of a sudden, mama holds you and gives you the breast or gives you the bottle, and you drink the milk and you feel her touch, and you stop crying and you relax. And you went from this emotional little creature to, So we associate food with love, and food with touch, and food with nourishment, and food with, this is going to calm me down. So it's actually a brilliant strategy that we use food to ground ourselves emotionally. And I think it's also true that we can use that strategy to our detriment, for sure. So we could then turn to food whenever we're feeling so emotional and we don't really be with and get present with, okay, what's happening in me? What do I need, really? Do I need food? Or do I need to talk to someone? Or do I need to take a walk? So I think part of it is we as a culture, I think, need to learn to embrace the beauty of the eating experience. And it is emotional. It is fascinating. It does invoke love. And at the same time, it's the place we turn to get the easiest, psychologists call it symbolic substitute. If you can't get the love you seek, find the nearest approximate symbolic substitute, food, or make money, or get power. You know, women have, a woman has her way of doing it, man has his way, different of us have different ways of finding our symbolic substitutes. So it's learning how to do it in a way that works for us.
Yeah. So awesome. And just in hearing you talking about it, it's like this feeling of allowing us to be human. It's like we don't have to be perfect and do everything perfect in our life, in eating and the right plan, that there's like a spaciousness to like exhale.
Yeah, and food does make us human. I think that's the whole point of it. It's such a earthy, earthbound human activity. You got to forage for food, hunt for it, grow it, earn money, buy it, cook it, serve it. And then you have to digest it, and then you have to excrete it. There's all kinds of things go on that it's very humbling. And then you have maybe a bellyache, or then maybe you gained a pound, or then, and all these interesting challenges come up around it. And I think instead of fighting all that, there's a way to embrace it and step out of the perfectionist model of I've got to have the perfect diet and the perfect weight and the perfect body and do this food thing perfectly and then I'll be okay. Hasn't worked for anybody as far as I can tell.
Right. That's so great. Well, I love it. I so appreciate your wisdom. I love your books. I love everything about this approach, and I think it is a very different approach and very needed for all of us. So love to just end with, who is this course for?
This course is for, anyone who eats, I would say. Yeah, really. Next, I would say, is for anybody with an interest in nutrition and health that, like me, at some point got sick and tired and bored of hearing the same messages over and over again. Here's a new superfood. Here's what you should be eating. Here's how much you should weigh. Here's the new miracle diet. Here's a new miracle supplement. Yes, all that's interesting, but there's a whole other body of work when it comes to what nutrition is that I find really fascinating. So this course is about really reinvigorating people around their relationship with food, how they see nutrition, how they see the body, and also for people who want to use that information for me personally or for me professionally. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of us who are in the helping professions, whether you're teaching yoga and doing massage, whether you're a clinician, via nutrition, social work, psychology. There's really beautiful ways to augment your practice with this material. And it's just really some simple strategies and concepts that can really change the way we approach eating, approach dieting, approach health and energy, and all the common concerns that people have around food, whether it's weight or body image or overeating. So I'm going to pack a lot of both, I think, wisdom and information in a short chunk of time.
That's so great. Well, I love it. I love that it's for everyone, and I know that everyone will benefit from this wisdom. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us today, and looking forward to your course.
Thank you so much. You've been wonderful.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.